In the left corner, weighing in at 2 tons, the judge, jury, and executioner, Senator Slaughter. And in the right corner, coming in at 3 tons, the monster of metal, the Terminator of titanium, Captain Crush!
Alright, Real Steel, the movie about robots. Finally, I've been waiting for this movie forever. It starts out with Hugh Jackman waking up in his trailer and he's getting a bunch of phone calls because he owes a lot of people money. So you're kind of getting the feeling that he's like that scammer type of guy who's not really the greatest guy in the world. He's at a fairground because he entered his robot ambush into a with what, right? Another giant robot? No, not exactly. It's a steer. So he's livestock with a giant machine. He's not a good guy. Either way, he quickly the because he's not paying attention to it. He's focusing more on the girls around him than the actual and that costs his robot his pretty much the entire thing. So he tries to sneak out without paying the promoter money, and you're thinking, hey, that promoter kind of looks a little familiar. In this movie, he's the antagonist for Hugh Jackman, and you know that they've been butting heads for a long time, well before the movie even started, so you know that you're gonna see this guy again later on. After the he finds out that his ex-wife is leaving behind his son to be taken care of, he knows that the boy's rich aunt and uncle want to take care of him because they can provide better for him. He also knows that he needs to buy a new robot because Ambush is so what does he do? He the kid to the aunt and uncle. Yep, he's not a good guy, and they're laying it on thick. The uncle, however, wants to spend the summer with his wife in Italy, so Hugh Jackman makes a deal with him that he'll take care of the boy for the summer. So now that he's got the money, he decides to buy Noisy Boy, a former robot boxing world contender. He tells his girlfriend that he bought the robot for $50,000, but it's in rough shape and needs to be fixed up. $50,000? In the future? That thing's gotta be like a pile of scrap metal. There's no way this thing is in working condition for $50,000. So Hugh Jackman brings in this giant crate, and when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, okay, when he opens this thing up, it's just gonna be a pile of rust in there. Ha! I was He cranked that thing open, and there stood a robot. He takes the headset out of the crate and puts it on and starts telling the robot commands like punch, kick, do a barrel roll, but the robot's not doing anything. And you're thinking, okay, well maybe it's just a shell, you know, it's a robot, but it's just a shell. There's no working components inside it or anything. So he gets frustrated and off. He's like, oh man, I got gypped. $50,000 down the drain. But then the kid takes the headset and puts it on and starts saying commands in Japanese to the robot, and it starts performing perfectly well. So the robot looks it's in good working condition. It only responds to Japanese commands. That's fine. That's not a big deal. But that's not even the craziest part. Hugh Jackman walks up to the back of the robot and goes, well, voice recognition is in Japanese. We'll just switch this to English. Ah! Perfect working robot now, everything's fine. How could you sell a robot for $50,000? It works perfectly. This should have sold for way more. Who would get rid of a robot for a minor problem like that? Hey, Noisy Boy, you're looking great today. What? Is that Japanese? Off to the scrapyard. Alright, well Hugh Jackman got really lucky and now he's got a great robot, so he's gotta be going to the top, right? Nope. Hugh Jackman hasn't made a good decision so far and he's not about to start now. He gets to the arena and decides to Midas, the reigning champion. And when they get into that ring, you might think, well, Noisy Boy might have a chance. I mean, he was the former world contender, right? Well, he doesn't have a chance in Hugh Jackman's hands, and he quickly yet another You want to know why? It's because he doesn't learn the controls to his own robot. He spent $50,000 on the robot and decided, well, you know what? Manuals, them. You don't need them. Why would you learn the controls to your own robot? You spent $50,000 on the thing. You should know everything there is to know about it. I'd make sure that robot knew how to wipe my ass if I needed him to. So, like I said, Noisy Boy to Midas, and he's all destroyed, and the kid has to be the grown-up to his own father. He has to tell Hugh Jackman that he because he jumped the gun and went straight for the main champion, rather than work on the lower levels until he got up to the top guy. That way he'd know how to when he got there. After that fiasco, they go to the junkyard to find more parts, and that's where the kid stumbles upon an old robot when he nearly falls off a cliff. Hugh Jackman tells the kid that it's an early model sparring bot from 2014, and that it can withstand a lot of punishment, so they decide to take the robot with them. And when they fix it up, they realize it has a shadow function, which enables the robot to mimic a movements. The kid really likes the robot and decides to take it on a stroll down the street in the middle of the night, which is where my second problem comes into play. These robots are massive and can easily destroy almost anything in their path. You see it in the movie. As the kid's running, the robot's pushing things over and knocking things down as it runs through the alleys. So what's to stop this robot from running into a bank? The kid can use it for whatever he wants because of the shadow function. It's almost like a kid running around with a loaded gun. So we learn that the robot's name is Adam. Hugh Jackman gets the robot a and lets the kid pilot the robot. They wind up through the father's boxing knowledge. Imagine that. So you know what happens after that now, don't you? On to the montage.
From just a beginner to a pro, you need a montage. Even Rocky had a montage.
So Adam a bunch of through a montage, and now it's time for the big leagues. So Adam steps into the ring and has to Twin Cities, a robot operated by 2 people. How is that legal? I don't know, but it doesn't matter because Hugh Jackman figures out that the robot has a tell, and every time that he swings his arm for a punch, there's a hitch in it. So every time he sees it, he counters with another punch and winds up the Now after he the kid runs right up to the microphone and is like, I wanna Zeus! Zeus is the main competition! I wanna him! He's mine! You're going down, Zeus! Adam's the best! We're #1! What happened to the humility, kid? What happened to work your way up the ranks and then the top guy? You guys are doing like a total switcheroo because now Hugh Jackman's like, what are you doing, kid? We gotta work our way up the ranks and then we Zeus. It doesn't matter because they leave the arena with their prize money, and on the way out they get by Ricky, the promoter from the beginning of the movie. Now I find that a little weird because I would think that an arena would have some kind of security to walk them to their truck, because that's a lot of prize money to be walking around with. Maybe the future's different, I don't know. Either way, the money's gone. Hugh Jackman feels guilty about what happened, so he brings the kid back to his aunt and uncle because he realized how much he really does like the kid, but decides he's not fit to take care of him anymore. But then in a couple scenes later, he goes back to get the kid because they just got the for Zeus. Now Zeus is a very expensive robot, built by the top robot engineer, and Adam is not favored to win this so Ricky places a $100,000 bet on Adam to in the very first round. So Zeus Adam and gives him a but since Adam is a sparring bot and built so well, he winds up the first round, leaving that jerk Ricky in a very bad position as he's being taken out of the arena for a bet that he probably can't pay up. Adam takes it a few more rounds and does consistently well, but Zeus keeps knocking him down, and each time he falls down you don't think he's going to get back up again, but the kid yells his hardest, and each time he does, that's when Adam gets back up again. It only seems like he responds to the kid when he yells his hardest, but that only takes Adam so far because eventually Zeus so bad that he breaks the voice recognition inside of Adam, leaving only his shadow function available. But that's a blessing in disguise because Hugh Jackman winds up Zeus through the shadow function in Adam, and he does so well that he has Zeus on the ropes all the way until the 12th round, where he winds up Zeus so bad that he's literally saved by the bell. The decision goes to the judges, and you know what? Adam the fight, but the crowd roars so well that you would think that he the fight. But it doesn't matter because the kid goes back to his rich aunt and uncle, Hugh Jackman goes back to his girlfriend, and the movie pretty much ends. All in all, it was a pretty decent movie about a boxer trying to climb his way back up the ranks, and about a father trying to reconcile with his son. And as an added bonus, it had robots in it. The effects were pretty great, and the robot boxing was really intriguing, but with that comes a lot of problems. Like, what exactly are the rules to this sport? Why didn't Zeus have a shadow function built into him like Adam did? And why wasn't he operated by 2 people like Twin Cities? It seemed like there was a lot of different ways to operate a robot that should have all been built into Zeus. I feel like we got more details about robot in that Raging Bender episode from Futurama. I also wish we could have seen Adam more. Through the course of the movie, he has a total of 3 scenes, and he has one beginning in the arena and then goes straight for the top contender. How does that happen? And Adam definitely won't next year because I can tell you this, Zeus is probably going to have a championship boxer doing the shadow function for him in his ring. Speaking of the next year, what year was it? They mentioned 2014 in the movie, but was that like 20 years ago or last week? You know it's the future, but where in the future is it? And whatever happened to Ricky and the other people that Hugh Jackman owed money to? The last time we see Ricky, he's just being taken out of the arena and then you just forget about him after that. I'd like to really see him get what he deserves. And let's not forget how destructive these robots are. These things are incredibly dangerous, yet they're treated as pets. They were walking down the aisles in the arena and they were right next to people. One false move from a robot and you'd have a decapitated audience. And Hugh Jackman was shadow boxing with Adam less than 2 feet away from him. Call me crazy, but I would never shadow box next to anything that could take my head off in one swoop. At any rate, I did like that they never explained if Adam was self-aware. Was there some magic in that old silk hat they found? If you ask me, I'd say yes. But I like that kind of robot stuff. People have loved this concept forever, my favorites being among them, so it was really great to see a concept somewhat like these shows. But if you really want to watch this movie, and you only have a half hour to kill, you might as well just watch the Futurama episode. And if you could tell me where Hugh Jackman's New England accent went, I'll give you a high 5.
Robots, take your stance. Get ready.